If you are somebody who has found your thoughts and feelings about your lower dysphoria changing through your transition, and you're finding yourself changing your mind about lower surgery and trying to work through all of what that brings up, then this video is for you. Hey folks, it's Finn. Welcome back folks, lovely to see you. So today's video is all about lower surgery and about genital dysphoria, and how sometimes we can start our transition with no genital dysphoria or very low genital dysphoria, and then that can change over time. So I was somebody who initially didn't want lower surgery at all, as you probably remember. And then midway through my transition, I completely changed my mind. And now I talk to lots of people about this who experience the exact same thing. And it can make making lower surgery decisions really difficult, because it brings up like questioning ourselves. Why did I not have dysphoria 1 minute and now I do? And it can make us doubt whether surgery is right for us, and it just means that we are a big ball of confusion when it comes to lower surgery. So today I'm going to talk about my experience to hopefully help with that. But before we get stuck in, a huge welcome to anybody who is new. My name is Finn, and here on this channel I share my life in recovery as a transgender gay man. So expect to find lots of content around gender transition, LGBT life, mental health and recovery, all served with lots of honesty and a little touch of humour. So subscribe and hit the notifications so you don't miss out on all of the regular Finstalments. So, as regular followers will remember, at the very beginning of my transition I said that I wanted hormones, I wanted top surgery, and that was it. Wasn't going anywhere near lower surgery, wasn't interested at all. I was happy with what I had. Now, some trans men who were further on than me said that I would likely change my mind after top surgery because that had happened to them. And I bared that in mind going ahead with top surgery, but in all honesty, because there was just no dysphoria there, I doubted that would happen to me. Well, I had my top surgery in 2013, and oh my goodness, even like immediately after surgery, the freedom, the peace inside my body was just incredible. I had extreme chest dysphoria, so it was just there all the time, like I was constantly drowning in it. The gender euphoria over the few months after top surgery just kept creeping up and up and up. It was wonderful, and absolutely no sign of lower dysphoria. If anything, what I felt was more comfortability with my genitals than I had before, because I moved into more of a space of neutrality about it. I mean, beforehand there'd been some awareness that it wasn't quite right, but that kind of fitted in with the whole of my body that wasn't right. So after top surgery, where my face was being read correctly and now my chest was being read correctly, all of that wonderful congruence and celebration of me, I suddenly kind of saw my genitals as just neutral. They weren't male genitals or female genitals, they were just mine. They were on my body, so therefore they were male. I was actually feeling quite smug about the whole thing, that it hadn't affected me at all. But then, a few months after top surgery, what started to happen was two main things really. The first was this huge confidence in myself as a man, where I moved from wishing I was a man, wanting to be a man, feeling like a man, to absolutely knowing I was a man. It's a real deep sense within me that I trusted my decision, because in early transition there's still those doubts. Can I really be a man? But for this first time, I suddenly felt it. Of course I was a man. I'd always been a man. And as well as this rising feeling, there was also some first early signs of things not being right, which started with my stand-to-pee device. Now, I use the Peacock Pack Pee and Play, so I wore it as a prosthetic penis to use to stand to pee. I'd always told myself, or thought, that this prosthetic penis wasn't about replacing a missing part. It was to help me feel more socially confident, to lower my social dysphoria, because I got a little dysphoria around using toilets. I also liked the way that this penis made me walk, because I could feel the bulge in my pants. So that was the difference in my head. This prosthetic penis wasn't about needing a penis, it was about just needing some comfort. Or so I thought. But then gradually, as the months went on, this prosthetic penis moved from being something that helped to something that hindered and made me feel sad, because every time I was holding it, having a pee, I could feel the dysphoria rising. Every time I took it off at night and put it on the sink and it was just lifeless, I could feel the dysphoria rising. And these two things, the rise of real confidence in knowing I was a man and this rising sense of my prosthetic penis is just bringing up some stuff, those two combined, and it was very clear that what I was experiencing was genital dysphoria. And I was pretty gutted. And I really did fight this feeling. I just didn't want it for a number of reasons, really. I think one of the main ones in the beginning was I felt really ashamed and embarrassed because I'd always said I didn't want this surgery. I'd been so passionate about the fact that, you know, you don't have to have a penis to be a man. A penis does not make you male. And I'd also spoken a lot about how it didn't make you any less trans or not trans enough if you chose not to have lower surgery. So that was bothering me. And then, of course, I was with a partner who had started out as a lesbian and had struggled in the beginning to accept my transition, but had. And I would already said to them that I wasn't going to have lower surgery. So there was a fear there that if I said I wanted lower surgery, that I might lose them. And then there was the fear of surgery itself. Back then, this was 2013, where lower surgery had such a bad reputation. So many myths were circling about the fact that the surgery rarely worked, that people lost penises all the time, that it never had any sensation, and that it looked nothing like a penis. So I thought, I can't even have surgery anyway. Who would want that? And then on top of that, there was the, how on earth can I have suddenly just developed lower dysphoria? I didn't have any at all, and it suddenly arrived. So how can I trust myself? All these things were such a big whirling mess, you know, my worries about changing my standpoint on surgery, my concerns about my relationship, my fears around surgery, and that it didn't even give you good results, and my lack of trust in myself. All of this was just too much. I didn't know even where to begin with how to make decisions, and I just sunk into quite a low place for a while. So I got some help. I spent a lot of time working through this, using a lot of self-reflection, talking to other trans people, reading the very few books I could find on the topic, and I'll put a link below to the books that are out there, as well as talking to my various therapists as well. I began to realise that actually what had been going on was that my top dysphoria was so bad, so it's no wonder really that that noise had drowned out any other feelings. This huge dysphoria of my chest was then replaced with a huge gender euphoria after top surgery, with all that dysphoria gone and this glee of my body being free. So that gender euphoria also drowned out any lower dysphoria. But then what happened was, as I started to feel much more congruent in everything, you know, I'd been read correctly for quite a while by this point, and then having my top surgery done, I felt even more congruent with my body and my maleness, and people reflecting that back to me. And so with everything else matching so much that I didn't know it could be possible to feel that congruent, that suddenly the lower half of me no longer felt congruent. And it stopped even feeling neutral. It started to feel at odds with the rest of me. Now, I've seen a really good video recently from a psychiatrist who talks about the reasons why genital dysphoria changes over time. And she calls it dormancy. And this makes so much sense because it was in the very beginning of transition all about helping people to see the person I was, because I knew I was male, but nobody else did. And so to start feeling comfortable, I needed external stuff, external cues to tell people I was male. So that was my hormones, which changed my face, and top surgery. Those are outward things. Nobody sees what's in your pants, apart from your partner, of course. So it makes sense that we want to fix all of these outside things first, and then once all these outside things are more congruent, then in that space where all that pain and incongruence is gone, you're suddenly aware of this incongruence and dysphoria in your genitals. I also became aware in terms of the story I was telling myself and others about my thoughts on lower surgery. And what I mean by this is we all do this as humans. It's part of the human condition. It's a part of the way we understand ourselves and our world, is we make up stories of how we understand things. And my story was that I didn't need a penis to be a man. And now reflecting on it, I could see that actually that story of mine had been born out of this fear of losing my partner. So in the beginning, in saying I wasn't going to have lower surgery, I thought then that that would keep my partner with me. It wasn't consciously done, but it was a subconscious thing. And then this story of being so passionate about I do not need a penis to be a man was kind of my way of being okay with the fact that I'd chosen not to have lower surgery. So I was in effect trying really hard to make myself believe it, even though I hadn't been aware that that was what I had been doing. Is this making sense? Working through all this and unknotting this took a while, but it was really lovely to make sense of it all and to understand that the lower dysphoria likely hadn't just arrived. It'd probably always been there bubbling under the surface, just kind of masked by my dysphoria of other areas and masked by my denial for fear of what choosing lower surgery might mean in terms of consequences for myself with my partner. But once working through all of these things, it was clear to me that I had lower dysphoria and that I did need lower surgery. The trouble with bringing something into consciousness is that you then feel it. So once I was like, okay, no more denial, I definitely do have lower dysphoria and I definitely do want surgery, then the dysphoria hit me in the face. No more denial, no more masking, boom, genital dysphoria to the max. But then I had huge fears of surgery. Okay, wonderful to acknowledge that I did need and want lower surgery, but how could I have it? It didn't exist. There was no surgery that could give me a penis that was working, that would have feeling, that would function, that would look like a penis. Everything I'd heard told me that that absolutely wasn't possible, that there were loads of complications, you had so many risks. Who would want that? So I took another chunk of time, and this time, in knowing I wanted lower surgery, I just focused on doing as much research as I possibly could. And I don't mean the statistics. More than anything, what I wanted was first-hand experiences from other trans people. There weren't many people sharing at the time back in 2013, 2014, but the people that I did find were incredibly generous and shared their experiences with me. And I was shocked to discover that actually a large part of what I'd heard about lower surgery was not true. And that actually, although this was true that it was a huge surgery with lots of stages, lots of complications, it was also true that this could produce very, very pleasing results with a functioning penis and an aesthetically pleasing penis. Who knew? I was absolutely stunned and incredibly pleased to be proved wrong about lower surgery and to see that this was possible, because I had hope and excitement for the first time that this surgery could help to contribute to the rest of the congruence I had, and over the time it took to get a penis, I could arrive in an even more comfortable place of gender congruence and happiness and dysphoria-free life for myself. And you know the rest of the story. And now this is actually one of the reasons I started sharing as openly as I do on my channel, on my blogs, and in my recent book, Top to Bottom, about lower surgery, because I had completely believed what I'd heard about lower surgery, and I had recycled these myths. I'd been telling other people these things that I'd heard. So I'd played a part in this problem. So for me, sharing as openly as I do was about undoing some of that and showing the truth of this, you know, so that people could be free to make better informed, balanced decisions, because I don't think it was possible back then to make balanced decisions because of how negative everyone was about lower surgery. It's definitely improved now, and that's largely because lots more people are sharing their positive results, and I'm so grateful to all the people that do, because we need first-hand accounts to help us make decisions. So thank you to everybody who bravely shared their story to help me and continue to bravely share their story to help others. So that's my story about how I went from no lower genital dysphoria and not wanting lower surgery through to a huge amount of genital dysphoria and wanting and starting my phalloplasty journey. And I'm sharing this today to help everybody else who might be in the same position, where they've suddenly arrived at a place where they realise their thoughts have changed about lower surgery and how that can bring up lots of doubts. I hear lots of people say quite frequently, you know, if I have doubts, does that mean surgery is right for me? If my dysphoria isn't as high as it was with my top surgery, does that mean it's right for me? Absolutely stop and work through these feelings, but it doesn't automatically mean that it's not right for you, for lots of the reasons that I've discussed here. So it's important to take time out, not just dismiss it because your experience isn't what you expect it might be, just to stop, take some time to reflect, get some support with that reflection to work through what's going on, as I did, and then you can make sense of how to progress from here. That was a bit of a waffle, but I hope it was helpful. Another final but very important note, I still stand by what I've always said. A penis does not make a man, and not wanting a penis doesn't make you any less of a man. As trans people, we all choose different things in order to feel comfortable. There is no right way to transition. There is no right level of dysphoria. You can have loads of dysphoria or no dysphoria. What matters is we know what's right for us to feel comfortable, and that's it. We each have our own path to walk. As always, folks, if you have any comments or questions, please do leave them in the section below. You can also find more resources there too. If you're enjoying my content and you'd like to say thank you, I would love you to buy me a cup of coffee. You can find me at ko-fi.com/FinlayGames, and I really do appreciate your support. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you next week.